I would like to know, can any single person on this panel feed your family for $174 a month? Anybody? Can anybody in this room feed your family for $174 a month? Anybody? Not a single hand in the room? I think Costco. Yeah, okay. This is not a joke, my friend. Let's get real here. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to work with you on bipartisan efforts to deal with criminal activity involving waste, fraud, and abuse in SNAP, but I will not support cutting programs for people who need them. I appreciate the conversation. I always find these conversations about public benefits interesting, especially as somebody who grew up in a low-income family, in a low-income community. I always find it fascinating to hear how people talk about low-income people. But let me just start out with some facts. Can any of our panelists here answer the question, by dollar, what are the top 3 causes of improper payments, waste, fraud, and abuse in SNAP? Nobody wants to volunteer? Top 3.
Number 1 would be eligibility errors.
Wrong. It is improper payments. It's improper payments. It's an intentional SNAP fraud. And the 3rd is criminal organizations who are actually explicitly stealing people's SNAP benefits. That is what is the top 3 causes of SNAP fraud and the loss of federal taxpayer dollars. It's actual criminal organizations. Does anyone on the panel know what the penalties are for committing SNAP fraud? Raise your hand. Anyone know? Yep, please, Ms. Royale.
There are different penalties. An individual who is found guilty of committing SNAP fraud is subject to criminal prosecution, incarceration, fines, and restitution.
Yep, so it's
somebody who is found guilty of an intentional program violation is subject to disqualification, either 12 months, 24 months, permanent, or a 10-year other special disqualification penalties.
Excellent, yes. And in fact, in some cases with extreme fraud can be up to $250,000 and 20 years in prison. All right, who can answer about what the average individual receives per month in SNAP benefits? Ms. Platanino.
For a household too, it's less than $320 a month.
And about per person, what would you say?
It's about $200.
Yeah, so it depends on the household and the beneficiaries, but when you average it out, according to the USDA, it comes out to between about $174 and $177 per person per month. And so when you break that down, that's about $6 a day, right? $6 a day. Can anyone answer who is the #1 beneficiary of SNAP benefits? Ms. Platanino.
Retailers, because the money goes straight into the retailers' stores and then goes and offers up into the local economy, raising taxes and increasing wages.
But in terms of the actual beneficiaries, in terms of
Children.
the people who receive the SNAP benefits, but yes, the economic downstream impacts.
Yes, it's children followed by older adults and people with disabilities.
Exactly. 39% of SNAP beneficiaries are children under 18 years old, not fraudsters, children. 10% people living with disabilities, 20% older adults over 60. The vast majority of SNAP recipients are not committing fraud. They are children, they are people living with disabilities, and they are seniors. Now, I'm gonna save you because I know many people don't wanna share this publicly, but I would ask if any of you have actually been on SNAP benefits. And I wanna say publicly, there's no shame in being on SNAP benefits, because it is a program that was created to help people who are struggling. It's to help grandparents who are taking care of children. It's to help take care of kids who are in the foster care system. It's there so that when a mom goes through a divorce and she loses her job and is having a hard time, she can take care of her kids. That's what the SNAP program exists for. It is a bridge. It doesn't even cover the cost. I would like to know, can any single person on this panel feed your family for $174 a month? Anybody? Can anybody in this room feed your family for $174 a month? Anybody? Not a single hand in the room? Yeah, okay. This is not a joke, my friend. Let's get real here. There is actual waste, fraud, and abuse in this system. It's criminal activity. It's activity that is just like every single financial system out there. There are bad people who take advantage of financial systems. But the vast majority of beneficiaries of this program are seniors, children, and people living with disabilities. And when you make it harder for them to access benefits, then it means that they go hungry. They skip meals, they don't have access to food, they go to our food banks who are already struggling because of the cuts that were put in this budget to cut other programs that put food to our food banks. And essentially, it leaves our people, our children, our seniors, our grandparents without access to food. And so, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to work with you on bipartisan efforts to deal with criminal activity involving waste, fraud, and abuse in SNAP, but I will not support cutting programs for people who need them. I yield back.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Representative Fallon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
From Texas.
So unlike some of us, we're not in a classroom, so I'm not going to ask anybody to raise your hands. Okay, we'll just have a civil conversation. Miss, is it Platanino? Am I saying it correctly? Okay. You've worked for how long in your current position?
Over a year.
Okay. All right. And did you have related jobs that were similar?
I served as an attorney for multiple years representing low-income individuals in various public benefit programs.
Okay. Did you know what the amount the federal government spent in SNAP benefits in fiscal year 2019 was?
2019, not off the top of my head.
And I'm not going to try to play gotcha. It was $65 billion. And then in 2025, do you think it went up or down from that number?
It went up because of the pandemic and the job loss and the
yeah, but
economy.
the pandemic has long since been over. For several years at this point, it was $102 billion, which is a massive increase of 68%. And yet the GDP per capita, if you adjust for inflation, is only 8.9%. So that's quite a leap and quite a difference. And according to the GAO, at minimum, we're looking at $300 million in fraud, waste, and abuse. And of course, I think we all could agree that the reality is